SKOL Vikings, let's win this game.
Vikings fans, the last few days around this team have felt like standing in the middle of a thunderstorm where every clap comes from a different direction. 1 minute it's trade smoke, next minute it's quarterback drama, then somebody drags an old decision back into the light like a crime scene photo. You've got theories flying, cold takes crashing the party, locker room emotions spilling online, and then a career turn that punches the chest of anyone who lives and breathes Vikings football. Lock in with me because this ride isn't smooth. Before we dive headfirst into it, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and help keep this thing rolling. No cost, no catch, just more purple voices in one place. And don't be shy in the comments. This isn't a lecture, it's a conversation. Out of absolutely nowhere, the trade chatter revved its engine again, like someone slamming the gas in a quiet neighborhood. Every time the Vikings blink, somebody sketches up a blockbuster, and now once again it's centered on the best player wearing purple. This time the whispers are drifting in from California. The pitch is simple and loud. Folks connected to the San Francisco 49ers are saying Minnesota should at least hear out a so-called Godfather offer for a certain wide receiver. And right in the middle of that noise, Justin Jefferson's name gets tossed onto the table. Let me be crystal clear. This is not coming from inside the Vikings building. This is outside media imagination doing what it always does when it wants fireworks. Tim Kawakami from the San Francisco Standard floated the idea, framing it as, if the 49ers need a true number one, why not swing for the best alive? He even mentioned a conversation with ESPN's Nick Wagoner and talked about sending at least 2 first-round picks. It sounds like a fantasy trade machine glitch, and yeah, it makes you chuckle, but it also makes your stomach tighten. When a heavyweight media market starts seeding this stuff, it spreads like ink in water. Now step back and think, why would Minnesota ever do this? How do you walk into 2026 talking Super Bowl aspirations while shipping out the one guy who can hijack a game by himself? It doesn't line up with Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah's approach. It doesn't match the locker room pulse. And it sure doesn't reflect the thinking of anyone who lives and breathes Vikings football. Then there's the part nobody likes staring at. The money. Moving Jefferson isn't some clean reset. You're staring at brutal dead cap with talk of more than $40 million slamming the books. With the cap already tight, that's like tossing a lit match into a fireworks shed. For me, that alone pops the balloon. From the 49ers angle, I understand the hunger. Brandon Ayuk has become a question mark. Fading from the plan, fading from the energy. With chatter he could be traded or even cut. Add in other receivers heading toward free agency, and yeah, they're fishing for a star. That's business. But this is Minnesota. Jefferson isn't a spare part. He's the fingerprint of this offense, the guy who makes defensive coordinators sweat through their headsets. So when you see a theory like this, the fan translation is simple. They're tossing sparks to see if anything catches. And around here, the bleacher-level read is always sharper because we've watched this film before. So tell me straight in the comments, does any impossible package even exist that would make sense? Or is this pure noise? Because the next story drags us into another trade fantasy. Only this time it's about the trigger man. All right, pump the brakes because now we're talking quarterbacks and this debate has been spinning like a tire stuck in snow. The idea being floated was, what if Minnesota chased a pricey veteran to stir up the quarterback room? When you're still salty about 2025, that kind of thought can feel tempting. But fool's gold still shines. This time, the wet blanket came from Bleacher Report, who tagged Minnesota as a bad landing spot for a certain name. Enter Kyler Murray. Their case was that the fit isn't clean in Kevin O'Connell's offense, which they argue leans toward a drop-back, timing-based quarterback. And Kyler doesn't fit that mold. I hear it, but some of that feels like autopilot analysis. Yes, O'Connell prefers a pocket passer. But when Cousins went down in 2023, this team turned the league sideways with Joshua Dobbs for a stretch. That was backyard football on a national stage. So don't act like movement is illegal here. If a quarterback completes throws, processes the field, and wins games, the playbook bends. Bleacher Report also tossed out that Kyler might not even clearly beat out J.J. McCarthy if it came down to competition. That's where I squint. Murray has years of NFL reps and elite accuracy. McCarthy, to this point, has been up and down and injured. You don't import a contract that big just to let a guy warm the bench. Nobody eats that kind of money for a clipboard holder. Then there's the durability question. Kyler missed a large chunk of 2025 with a foot issue, and there was that whole soft benching narrative in Arizona. Fair or not, that stuff sticks like gum on a shoe. Vikings fans carry scars from quarterbacks who can't stay upright, so the hesitation makes sense. And then comes the price tag. Even if Arizona considers releasing or dealing him, that cap hit would reshape the roster overnight. Suddenly depth thins out, trench help evaporates, and priorities shift. Add in reports the Cardinals want clarity by early March, and this thing could ignite quickly. The ironic twist? After poking holes in Murray, Bleacher Report nodded approvingly at two names dripping with history and controversy, Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers. Cousins has deep roots here and knows the weapons. Rodgers brings the whole circus: talent, drama, cameras. The idea would be letting McCarthy sit another year and absorb it all, but let's not dance around it. If the front office truly doubts McCarthy, the offseason will be a smoke machine. Every veteran name becomes a headline. What I want is the real blueprint, not theory board chatter. Talking is easy. Building something that survives January is the grind. And keep rolling with me, because the next story isn't hypothetical. It's a cold splash of reality about what we let slip away. This one stings because it isn't rumor mill nonsense. It's concrete, broadcast in high definition, the kind of truth that makes you stare at the ceiling at 2 a.m. asking how the road bent this way. The name front and center is Sam Darnold. Yes, that's Sam Darnold. The one fans argued over, defended, criticized, and never fully agreed on. He went to the Seattle Seahawks and marched them straight into the Super Bowl. On the biggest stage, he threw for 346 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 0 turnovers. Calm, poised, no unraveling. And here's the gut punch layered on top. After going 14-3 in 2024, Minnesota chose to pivot and hand the keys to J.J. McCarthy. The reasoning lived on spreadsheets: cheaper, younger, more upside, more project. But 2025 at quarterback was a mess. The offense sputtered. The team clawed its way to 9-8 because the defense carried the piano uphill. When the real cold hit, they were left outside. Say it plain, that call has aged like milk. Darnold can lose the Super Bowl, and he's still already traveled farther than we have in far too long. And that burns. It burns when you look at quarterback efficiency in 2025 and see Minnesota sitting 5th worst in the league, while the defense ranked top 3. It leaves you with that nagging thought: one steady quarterback and the script changes. I know Just is doing a lot of work there, but you feel the weight anyway. And here's another uncomfortable truth. Plenty of people branded Darnold a permanent choke artist because of how 2024 ended. He went out and shattered that label. Seattle believed. They backed him. Now they're collecting the reward. Meanwhile, Minnesota taped things together. McCarthy injured again. Carson Wentz flashing in moments. Max Brosmer stepping in. Patchwork football leads to ripped seams in January. I'm not pretending paying Darnold would have been painless. The team invested up front, added serious trench talent like Will Fries, Jonathan Allen, and Javon Hargrave. On paper, it made sense. But today the question cuts deep. Was saving cash worth burning a real shot? The fix is easy to say and brutal to execute. Either swing for an elite quarterback who lifts the ceiling, or McCarthy explodes into the unquestioned answer. Without one of those, this loop never ends. And the fan base in purple and gold keeps replaying it like a scratched record. Drop your take in the comments. Go all in for a proven quarterback now, or ride with McCarthy one more year. And just when you think that's enough, the vibe got even stranger when players reacted in real time online. You know that feeling when a game ends and the air feels thick, like something unsaid is hanging between breaths? That's exactly what hit after the Super Bowl clincher. Almost immediately, reactions started bubbling up from guys tied to the Vikings locker room, and fans looked at them thinking, this feels heavier than a simple congrats. Once again, Sam Darnold sat at the center, not because of his words, but because of the ripple he caused. Current and former players started posting stories, tweets, little signals of respect. Cameron Bynum wrote, "Sammy D to the bowl," followed by "respect." Christian Darrisaw added, "Bean him," with a picture of Darnold. That tells you everything about how he was viewed inside that room. This wasn't some outside fairy tale. Then came the post that froze thumbs mid-scroll. Jonathan Greenard tweeted 3 dots. Nothing else. And in today's internet, 3 dots can scream louder than a paragraph. The timing was wild. 2 minutes after the final whistle, I saw it and thought, oh boy, it read like someone biting their tongue. Once he realized how fans in purple and gold took it, he followed with, "What happened?" and "Point proven." Later, he congratulated Darnold on Instagram, calling him Hooper and telling him, "Go get one." So no direct shot fired, but you can't act like it didn't land, especially with the backdrop of 2025. The defense balled out. Greenard himself was a force when healthy, but the offense never found rhythm with McCarthy, and survival mode kicked in. Fans watch Darnold heading to the big game and instantly imagine an alternate reality. Then they see 3 dots from a Vikings defender and it becomes a reflection of collective frustration. Legends chimed in too. Tommy Kramer wished him luck. Chris Carter initially misspelled Darnold's name, then fixed it. Jake Reed sent congratulations. That's the human layer. You can disagree with the path taken and still respect the grind. From the stands, wearing Defend the North in your chest, moments like this expose something fragile. The 2026 offseason just got heavier for the people making decisions. When the locker room starts whispering, even indirectly, the pressure doubles. And hang tight, because the next story flips the emotion entirely, trading regret for a memory that lands straight on the heart. A Vikings staple just turned the page faster than anyone expected. Now, the mood shifts gears. We step away from speculation and into a moment that feels like a warm flashback. In what feels like the blink of an eye, a guy who defined this franchise is already stepping into his next chapter. The name is Adam Thielen. But pause there, because the surprise wasn't just that he retired, it was the speed of the pivot. Less than 2 weeks after announcing he was done, he popped up on television in prime time, not as a prop, but as a voice. Thielen joined NFL Game Day morning to break down the Denver Broncos situation after Bo Nix fractured his ankle at the end of that wild overtime game. Denver's heading into the big one with Jarrett Stidham, and the desk brought in Thielen because he's lived that chaos. Back in 2017, Sam Bradford went down and Case Keenum took over in Minnesota, and the offense kept humming. Thielen was a huge part of that. He explained how in practice he could sense Keenum had something, and once the backup hits a couple plays in a real game, belief spreads like electricity. It sounds simple, but it isn't. Confidence reshapes blocking, routes, and play calls. Listening to him, you realize he understands the pulse of an entire roster. And here's why this hits Vikings fans hard. Thielen isn't just another former player. He's Minnesota through and through. Undrafted, built his career brick by brick here. Turned pain into production. Wrote history in purple and gold. The stat line reads 704 catches, 8,497 yards, and 64 touchdowns. But the real legacy is third down, sure hands, chains moving, and the stadium shaking. The weighty detail? This might not be a one-off. Word is this was basically an audition for a bigger TV role next season, and I buy it. Thielen speaks with calm authority. He's honest without hiding. He's not reading cue cards, he's reliving it. So here we are. A franchise icon closes one door and immediately opens another. And that lands heavy on anyone who lives and breathes Vikings football. Because it reminds you how fast seasons turn into memories and how today's calls echo tomorrow. Which brings us right back to the big picture. Because 2026 isn't just another year on the calendar. All right, take a breath with me, because when you connect all these threads, the image sharpens. You've got outsiders pushing Justin Jefferson trade fantasies like this franchise is a yard sale. You've got the quarterback situation turning into a serialized drama. Kyler Murray's name flashes and fades. In the middle of it all, Sam Darnold reaches the Super Bowl and forces a long look in the mirror. Jonathan Greenard's reaction and other players' posts show the locker room feels the gravity too. And then Adam Thielen slides seamlessly into the analyst chair, reminding everyone what leadership looks like when plans fall apart. I'll plant my flag here. 2026 is decision season for the Vikings. No more hiding from it. Either the offense clicks for real, or we're signing up for another winter of stubborn optimism. I'm tired of great defense being the entire pitch. I want January that matters. I want Defend the North to mean something tangible. So let's hear it. This space belongs to everyone who lives and breathes Vikings football. Are you sticking with patience on J.J. McCarthy, or would you push the chips in for a veteran who's ready right now? Stay tuned. SKOL Vikings, let's go.